In 1908, an archaeologist in Crete pulled a clay disc from the ground that shouldn't exist, and nobody's figured out what it says. July 3, 1908. An Italian archaeologist named Luigi Pernier was excavating the Minoan palace of Phaistos on the island of Crete. He and his team were digging through a layer of ash and rubble from around 1700 BCE when they found it. A disc of fired clay, roughly the size of a dinner plate, covered on both sides with symbols stamped in a spiral pattern. Pernier knew immediately he'd found something extraordinary, but he had no idea it would become one of the most maddening unsolved puzzles in archaeology. The disc is about 6 inches across and weighs roughly 450 grams. On its surface, 45 different symbols are pressed into the clay in a clockwise spiral pattern, 241 individual stamps total. That precision matters. This wasn't carved freehand. Someone made a set of metal or wooden dies, then pressed each symbol into soft clay with deliberate force. The craftsmanship alone suggests purpose, authority, intention. But toward what end? By 1909, Pernier's discovery was published. The academic world splintered immediately. Some scholars saw a religious text, a prayer or incantation. Others argued it was administrative, a tax record, an inventory, a decree. Still others believed it was something far stranger, a star chart, a musical notation, even a game board. The cost of that uncertainty was steep. Theories multiplied faster than evidence could constrain them. The first major obstacle was obvious. No one had ever seen these symbols before. They didn't match Linear A, the Minoan script that was already known. They didn't match Linear B, the later Mycenaean system. They didn't resemble Egyptian hieroglyphics or Hittite cuneiform. The disc existed in a vacuum. It was a message with no known language to decode it. Archaeologists had to make a critical decision: treat it as a unique artifact from a lost culture, or assume it belonged to a known system and search harder for matches. Most chose the second path. Over the next century, researchers tried to connect the Phaistos symbols to everything from Phoenician script to Proto-Indo-European. They failed repeatedly. Each dead end cost time, resources, and credibility. Then in the 1970s, a Swiss scholar named John Hromadke proposed something radical. The disc wasn't written in any known language at all. It was a one-off, created for a single purpose, then abandoned. Maybe it was a votive offering, a ceremonial object placed in the temple as a gift to the gods. If that was true, we might never decode it because there'd be nothing to decode. It was never meant to be a message. But that theory had its own problem. It offered no proof, only speculation. Other researchers pushed back hard. If the symbols were meant to communicate, they argued, then patterns should emerge. Frequency analysis, structural linguistics, comparison with other scripts, these tools had cracked other ancient codes. Why not this one? The most systematic attempt came from Louis Goddard in the 1980s and 1990s. Goddard analyzed the symbol distribution, the positioning of repeating glyphs, the spiral's mathematical properties. He concluded the text read from the center outward, not the reverse. He identified what might be word breaks and grammatical markers. His work was meticulous. His conclusions were also widely rejected. The core problem remains unchanged. Without a bilingual text, something that repeats the same message in both the Phaistos script and a known language, decryption is nearly impossible. The Rosetta Stone worked because it had 3 languages. The Phaistos Disc has 1. We're trying to crack a code with no key, no parallel text, no comparative evidence. Some scholars have proposed that the symbols might represent sounds, a syllabary, rather than whole words or ideas. If so, each symbol could be a syllable in an unknown language. But which language? Minoan. An unknown dialect. Something else entirely. The hypothesis generates more questions than it answers. There's also the possibility that the disc is a forgery, that Pernier or someone at his dig site created it as a hoax. It's been tested multiple times. The clay is authentic to the Minoan period. The firing patterns match contemporary pottery. The patina is real. Every material analysis supports authenticity, but that doesn't prove the symbols are genuine. By the 2000s, some researchers turned to computational analysis. Algorithms trained on known scripts were fed the Phaistos data. Machine learning models tried to find hidden patterns, statistical signatures, linguistic structures that human eyes had missed. They found correlations. But correlation isn't decryption. A pattern that looks linguistic might just be coincidence. The real cost of the Phaistos Disc's silence is intellectual. It sits in the Heraclean Museum in Crete, behind glass, a perfect artifact from a lost civilization. It's a window that won't open. We can see it clearly. We just can't read it. And that gap between visibility and understanding is exactly where mystery lies. Some archaeologists have given up. They've decided the disc is either a unique ceremonial object or a forgery, and that further analysis is futile. Others remain convinced that new discoveries, another artifact with the same symbols, a bilingual inscription, a fresh technological approach, could still crack it open. The disc has outlasted 115 years of effort. It might outlast us all. What makes the Phaistos Disc so unsettling isn't just that it's unreadable. It's that might be readable, that someone knew exactly what those symbols meant once. A scribe, a priest, a craftsman. They made deliberate choices about which symbols to use, how to arrange them, what spiral to follow. They had intent. And then that knowledge vanished completely. The disc represents a hard truth about archaeology. Not every mystery gets solved. Not every artifact yields its secrets. Sometimes the past stays silent, no matter how hard we listen. And sometimes the most important discoveries are the ones that teach us the limits of what we can ever know. The Phaistos Disc remains in Crete, waiting. Not for a solution, necessarily, but for someone willing to bet their reputation that they've finally understood what 700 years of silence has been protecting. Subscribe. Every week we uncover the artifacts that refuse to give up their secrets.